Earlier, I spoke to former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick, if you were leader of the Conservative Party right now, what would you be saying to our allies in Israel about the situation in the Middle East?
Well, good morning, Trevor. Look, we all want to see peace in the Middle East and to bring this conflict to an end. But my view is this: Israel cannot be expected to live alongside terrorists, whether that's Hamas or Hezbollah. Hamas, that perpetrated the most appalling crimes on October the 7th, led to 1,200 people dying, and Hezbollah, which started firing rockets the very next day. So we should be working with all of our allies to try to bring this conflict to a conclusion. But the way to do that is to get the hostages released. That is the way in which we can bring this to a close.
Is there anything that Israel could do that would forfeit your support? Because you are probably Israel's, in this contest, Israel's most enthusiastic backer.
Well, I'm not an uncritical friend of Israel. I think it's right that we stand with Israel because they are the only democracy in the Middle East, an important ally of the United Kingdom. But we have to, of course, persuade them to take sensible steps, to do everything they can to limit the loss of life, particularly amongst civilians. And I believe that they are taking the steps that they need to. Of course, in a war, any army faces incredibly challenging situations.
When you say taking the steps, pager bombs, airstrikes, assassinations, is that... Or these are all reasonable steps in your view?
Well, I don't support everything that Israel is doing. And of course, in a war, there will be mistakes made by any military, as indeed ours do, in those situations. But I do think that they are doing as much as they reasonably can to try to limit the loss of civilian life. You have to remember that Israel is in a unique neighbourhood where it has on each side states that mean to do it harm, and it's important for us to support it in this difficult period. The way to end the conflict is obviously for the hostages to be released, including the remaining British nationals who are still held in captivity.
All right, let's talk about the central issue for this conference, which is to find a new leader. You're going to start with what went wrong. Looking back at the campaign that you fought in June and July, did the Conservatives deserve to lose?
I think we made some serious mistakes, and I've been, perhaps amongst all the leadership contenders, the clearest in setting that out. I'll always defend our achievements in government, but we have to be painfully honest about what went wrong. And I think we failed to deliver for the British people on some of the most important questions facing our country. We didn't deliver the strong economy, the strong NHS, and the strong border that we promised. So what we have to do now is to listen to the public. That's what any opposition has to do when they've just suffered their worst ever electoral defeat. And then we've got to say, how are we going to change? And I stand for change in this leadership contest. I want us to change our offer to the public. I want us to secure our borders by leaving the ECHR. I want us to end mass migration. I want us to build homes to get young people onto the ladder. I want to reform the NHS, and I want to get lower taxes and growth going again in the economy. These will be big changes, and I think the public want to see the party bringing forward serious answers to the serious challenges that are facing our country right now.
You're talking about changing and listening. You've said that you'd bring back the Rwanda policy that's been scrapped by Labour. That doesn't sound like change to me. And it also doesn't sound like listening, because nobody thinks it's a good policy.
Well, that's your opinion, Trevor.
No, it's not my opinion. Every piece of polling, and it's one of the reasons you lost. That it was an unpopular policy that nobody thought...
With respect, Trevor.
Hang on, it was an unpopular policy that nobody thought could actually be delivered. You spent $700 million to deliver nobody to Rwanda. So, where's the change and where's the listening in that policy, which you want to bring back?
The reason the Rwanda policy didn't succeed was because it was not strong enough. I resigned from the cabinet at the turn of the year because, unfortunately, I was not able to persuade the then Prime Minister and the cabinet that we needed to strengthen the policy. The way to make Rwanda work and to secure our borders, to end mass migration, to end the small boats once and for all, is to carve out and to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. That's the argument that I made at the turn of the year. That's the argument I make now. Unless we leave the jurisdiction of the European Court, we will never get to grips with this problem. And the British public want us, they expect us to do that.
The intervention of the ECHR is significant, but not massive. if you...
with respect, that's not quite right,
In terms of the
Trevor.
numbers, in terms of the numbers.
Well, it's essential to the illegal migration question.
Okay.
Because the principal reason why the Supreme Court did not allow us to proceed with the Rwanda policy during my tenure was because we were part of the European Court.
Okay.
So we will never fix that problem whilst we remain within the European Court. I'm for leaving the European Court.
Let's deal with the central point you've just made, which is that you need to be much tougher on immigration. You really need to be quite radical. Nigel Farage's Reform Party wants a net zero immigration policy. Does that appeal to you?
Well, I've been very clear on this issue. I've said that the age of mass migration must end. It's placing immense pressure on housing, on public services, and on community cohesion. You can't integrate 1.2 million people into a small country each year. What I want to do is to have Parliament set a legally binding cap on migration so that we can look the public in the eye and be confident that we're going to deliver on our promises this time. I want to set that in the tens of thousands or lower. I think that is the way forward.
So the cap could be zero, or it could... What do you want? More than zero? Zero what?
Well, I want to bring it down to the tens of thousands or lower. I think that's the right level. Of course, you have to calibrate that carefully on the basis of the economy, our housing supply, and other issues. But that's the level I want to set it. And the important point here, Trevor, is that you have to have a cap. Unless you have a cap, I cannot look the public in the eye and say with certainty that it is going to happen this time.
Yeah, the first thing you said to me 5 minutes ago was about change. And now you're telling me you want to bring back a policy that was advanced by David Cameron.
No, Trevor.
Theresa May. Bringing down immigration to tens of thousands.
This is a very different policy,
That's exactly what Theresa May said.
No,
exactly what Cameron said.
Absolutely not. What I am saying...
What's different?
What I'm saying is there will be a cap. So Parliament will set a legally binding cap, cast in iron, so that this time it will happen. There's never been a cap before.
But how are you going to deliver it?
Before, we had an open-ended system where anyone could apply for a visa. We had no control over the number of visas that were issued as long as individuals met the criteria. The criteria set by the ministers at the time was wrong. It was too liberal. When I was the minister, I fought relentlessly for the biggest changes to our legal migration system in history that's going to bring down the number of people coming into our country by 300,000. I see that as a starting point, not an end. If we have the cap, which not everyone else agrees with, but if we have the cap, we will fix this problem once and for all.
One of the qualities that the conference will be looking at is the character of each of the candidates. Now, you've criticised Labour over donations, but we've noticed that you've received £75,000 over the past few months from a donor registered in the British Virgin Islands, a company called The Spot Fitness. Who are they?
As I understand it, this is a fitness company that operates in the UK. It's a perfectly legal and valid donation under British law, and we've set it out in the public domain in the way that one does with donations.
Sorry, when you say, as I understand it, somebody's wanged you 75 grand and you don't really know who they are.
Well, we do know who they are.
Who? Who are they?
It's a company that does sports fitness technology in the UK, and it's a perfectly valid and legal donation. We've registered it in the correct way, and I'm not aware that there's any challenge to that.
Who owns the company, and why are they giving you money?
Well, the owners of the company are set out on Companies House in the normal way, and the company obviously support, like many others
I don't think they are, by the way. They have no employees,
my vision for the future of the Conservative Party and the country.
Yeah. But the thing is, we looked at the record in Company House. They have no employees. We don't actually know the names of anybody. You could tell us. What about the new transparency? That's what's going to make you different from Labour. Why don't you just tell me who this company is?
Well, I think
they gave you £75,000 without talking to you.
Look, the details of the company are all online. It's all available.
Have you talked to the owners of the company yourself?
I've obviously met people who are involved in the company.
So who are they?
And well, it's all on Companies House, Trevor. I mean, you can see it.
Why don't you just tell me the name?
It's a perfectly valid and normal donation. But the point is here, what people are criticising Labour for is actually rather different to what you're suggesting. What Labour are being criticised is their rank hypocrisy, that they've spent years complaining about other political parties and then they've chosen to take off donors and cronies, and give passes to number 10 in response. That's what the public are angry about the Labour Party.
I'm only stopping you because I want to ask you the question that most of our viewers would be most interested in, which is that a year ago, when you appeared on the show, you were more of a man than you are now. You've lost weight, you've got a new haircut. I walked past you the other day and almost didn't recognise you. What are you trying to tell us about yourself?
Look, I just wanted to get fit and healthy, to be honest, Trevor. I had put on a bit too much weight, and so I've gone to the gym, I've gone running, I've tried different methods, and, you know, lucky enough to shed some pounds.
Ozempic didn't work?
Well, I tried it, and it did work, but it didn't really suit me, so I've gone back to the traditional way. So maybe was I jogging past you when you saw me on the street?
No, you were walking very thoughtfully. Robert Jenrick, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.